Have you ever felt that the world you were taught to believe in, the world of moral progress, rational people, and inevitable enlightenment, was a lie? Something far darker is hiding beneath all the lessons, slogans, and official stories. Deep down, you've seen it. The cruelty, the irrationality, the chaos that no textbook ever prepared you for. What if human nature isn't what you were told? What if the real story is older, darker, and far more disturbing than anything you've been taught to believe? And what if grasping this hidden truth doesn't just explain why the world feels broken, but forces you to confront who you really are and the invisible forces shaping your life? This is an abstract philosophy. This is a mirror, and what you see in it might change everything. From the moment we are born, we are told stories of cooperation, empathy, and kindness. Fairy tales teach us that good always triumphs over evil. History books highlight the progress of civilization as though it were a steady climb toward reason and justice. But behind this narrative lies another current. Look closer, and you see cycles of war, betrayal, greed, and manipulation repeating across centuries. Empires rise and fall. Ideals are preached, then broken. Promises are made, then betrayed. Why does this pattern persist? Because the roots of human nature run deeper than our cultural ideals. Ancient philosophers were far less sentimental about this than we are today. Thinkers from the Stoics to the early Chinese sages, from Machiavelli to Schopenhauer, understood that human beings are not just gentle creatures yearning for peace. We are also driven by self-interest, power, survival, and hidden desires we often do not admit even to ourselves. The shocking philosophy of human nature begins with this uncomfortable recognition. You are not only the hero of your story. You are also, potentially, its villain. And so am I. And so is everyone else. Modern society tries to soften this. We are told to be positive, to see only the good, to focus on unity and progress. Yet suppressing the darker truth does not make it go away. It makes it stronger. It drives it underground, where it shapes behavior in invisible ways. Every time you are disappointed by a friend, betrayed by a colleague, manipulated by a leader, or deceived by a stranger, you are encountering this suppressed reality. It is not an accident. It is a feature of what we are. But here is where the story gets even more interesting. Recognizing the darker aspects of human nature is not about becoming cynical. It is about becoming conscious. Once you acknowledge that people, including you, harbor self-interest, fears, and instincts that may conflict with their stated values, you begin to see clearly. You stop being naive. You start to make decisions rooted in reality rather than wishful thinking. This is the first step toward true wisdom. Consider how often history repeats itself. Charismatic leaders rise promising hope and unity. Masses follow, believing in a new dawn. Eventually, corruption, power struggles, and betrayal surface, and the cycle starts again. We shake our heads, asking, how could this happen? The answer is simple. It happens because human nature does not change with slogans or promises. It changes only when individuals confront their own shadows. The shocking philosophy you were never taught is that civilization is built not on the eradication of our darker impulses, but on learning to manage and integrate them. Even at the personal level, this plays out. Think about relationships. At first, everything feels pure, generous, open. Over time, subtle competitions emerge. Who gives more? Who takes more? Who sacrifices? Who benefits? Unspoken resentments build. If ignored, they can explode. Yet if recognized and addressed honestly, they can deepen intimacy and trust. This is the paradox at the heart of being human. Your capacity for empathy and your capacity for self-interest are intertwined. Ignoring one distorts the other. Philosophers like Nietzsche warned that denying the will to power, our natural drive for influence and significance, only makes it erupt in destructive ways. Carl Jung spoke of the shadow, the parts of ourselves we repress because they do not fit our idealized self-image. He argued that integrating the shadow, owning it, understanding it, is essential to becoming whole. This is not a lesson most schools teach. Instead, we are given moral slogans without the deeper psychological context, leaving us unprepared for the realities of life. But you do not have to stay unprepared. You can begin to see the pattern. You can start to question the comforting myths and replace them with deeper insight. When you do, something remarkable happens. Instead of feeling disillusioned, you feel liberated. You stop expecting perfection from yourself or others. You develop resilience. You begin to anticipate hidden motives without becoming paranoid, to sense the deeper currents under people's words and actions. This is the beginning of real self-mastery. It may sound unsettling at first. After all, no one likes to think of themselves as capable of selfishness, manipulation, or betrayal. Yet embracing this possibility does not make you worse. It makes you wiser. It allows you to recognize temptation and choose differently. It gives you the clarity to set boundaries, to discern whom to trust, to navigate the complexities of work, love, and community with open eyes. This is not about pessimism. It is about power, the quiet power of self-awareness. Imagine for a moment that every conflict you see on the world stage, every disappointment you feel in your personal life, every scandal that rocks society, is not an exception but an expression of the underlying human condition. Imagine how much pain could be avoided if we were taught this from the beginning, not as a cause for despair, but as a call to grow beyond our illusions. This is the message hidden in the shocking philosophy of human nature. It is not meant to scare you. It is meant to awaken you. An awakening is exactly what it feels like. You begin to notice patterns that were invisible before. You start to see how people's words and actions often diverge, including your own. You see that ideals matter, but life demands something more: honesty, courage, and action. They must be balanced with honest recognition of our instincts. Only then can you build relationships, communities, and even nations that are resilient rather than fragile. Only then can you move from being a passive participant in history to an active shaper of it. The reason you were never taught this is not entirely sinister. It is uncomfortable. It challenges cherished beliefs about progress, goodness, and destiny. But discomfort is the price of real knowledge. When you lean into it, you discover something surprising. Beneath the harsh realism is a deeper, more authentic form of hope. Not the hope of naive optimism, but the hope of grounded strength. Because when you see reality clearly, you can work with it instead of against it. When you finally understand that human nature is not a clean slate waiting to be written upon, but a complex tapestry of drives, fears, hopes, and instincts, you begin to see why so many of our collective efforts go astray. Idealistic movements crumble, utopias dissolve into chaos, and even personal resolutions fade. Not because the ideals are bad, but because they collide with the unacknowledged forces within us. This recognition can feel like a loss of innocence, but it is also the beginning of maturity. To see clearly is to step into adulthood at the deepest psychological and spiritual level. This is why the great teachers throughout history, from the Buddha to Epictetus, did not sugarcoat human suffering or human folly. They invited us instead to observe, to witness, to become aware of the patterns inside ourselves. Awareness is the first act of freedom. As long as you believe the myth that people, including you, are purely good or purely rational, you remain enslaved to disappointment. But when you see the whole picture, you can start to take responsibility for your impulses, your choices, and your impact. The shocking philosophy of human nature is not an argument for despair. It is an invitation to responsibility. It says, you cannot control the darkness in others, but you can confront and integrate the darkness in yourself. You cannot prevent every betrayal or every injustice, but you can learn to respond rather than react, to choose rather than be swept away. This is what the Stoics meant by inner freedom. This is what Jung meant by individuation. This is what every authentic spiritual path points toward: wholeness rather than denial. One of the most powerful shifts you can make is to stop looking for perfect heroes and start cultivating principled allies, including the ally within yourself. When you stop expecting flawless saviors, you stop being manipulated by charisma. When you stop pretending you have no shadow, you stop being driven by it unconsciously. This does not make the world less beautiful. It makes it more real. And reality, once embraced, can be worked with, shaped, and transformed. Think of the relationships you admire most, the ones that endure storms and come out stronger. They are not built on the denial of flaws, but on honest acknowledgement of them. Two people who know their own tendencies towards selfishness or fear can communicate openly, set boundaries, and forgive sincerely. This creates trust far deeper than the fragile trust based on idealization. In the same way, societies built on realistic understandings of human behavior design institutions that balance power, check corruption, and encourage accountability. This is wisdom applied collectively. Another shift happens inside your own mind. When you accept that you are a bundle of light and shadow, you become less harsh with yourself. You stop swinging between inflated self-images and crushing self-criticism. You start to observe your reactions with curiosity instead of shame. This self-observation is not passive, it is active learning. Every time you catch yourself acting from fear, envy, or control, you gain a little more freedom to choose differently next time. Over months and years, this transforms your character. Philosophy at its best is not about memorizing doctrines, but about practicing a way of seeing. When you apply this to human nature, you discover a paradoxical form of compassion. Because you recognize your own hidden motives, you can recognize them in others without condemnation. You understand why people lash out, why they betray, why they seek power. This does not mean you excuse harmful behavior, but it means you respond with clarity rather than blind anger. You can hold boundaries without hate. You can say no without bitterness. In spiritual language, this is often described as moving from illusion to truth, from projection to presence. You stop projecting your fantasies onto people and start seeing them as they are. This does not diminish love, it purifies it. Love grounded in reality is stronger than love built on illusions. It is less dramatic but more enduring. And it begins with seeing yourself clearly, the full spectrum, not just the parts you want to display. This journey is demanding. It requires humility, patience, and courage. It asks you to question stories you have cherished since childhood. It asks you to walk away from comforting slogans. But what you gain is worth it. You gain a deeper connection to reality, to other people, and to your own potential. You gain the ability to navigate complexity without losing your center. You gain the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you are not perfect, but you are awake. Imagine a culture where this was taught from the beginning, not as cynicism, but as a deeper form of hope. Children would learn that their impulses are not shameful but natural, that they can be understood and guided rather than denied. Leaders would be held accountable not because we expect them to be saints, but because we know they are human. Relationships would be based on transparency rather than performance. Such a culture would not be utopian, but it would be resilient, creative, and capable of real growth. This is the real gift hidden inside the shocking philosophy of human nature. It does not hand you a comforting fantasy. It hands you a map. It shows you where the pitfalls are, where the blind spots lie, and how to walk with eyes open. It reminds you that progress is possible, but only through honesty. It invites you to stop pretending and start practicing. Practicing self-awareness, practicing integrity, practicing courage. So as you finish this reflection, notice what arises in you. Does it feel uncomfortable? Liberating? Challenging? All of these responses are signs that the truth is touching something real inside you. This is the beginning of the transformation. By seeing what you were never taught, you become capable of teaching yourself. You become less a product of the currents around you and more a conscious navigator of your own path. And now, I want to turn this over to you. How has your understanding of human nature changed as you've grown older? Have you noticed your own shadow at work in ways that surprised you? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments. I'd love to read your perspective and see how this resonates with you. Your stories could help someone else on the same journey. Remember, Embracing the whole of human nature is not a reason for despair. It is a reason for hope, the kind of hope rooted in reality. By facing the truth, you gain freedom. By knowing yourself, you gain power. And by integrating your shadow, you unlock your deepest light. If this message spoke to you, give this video a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next exploration into philosophy, psychology, and the hidden dimensions of the human mind. Together, we can build a community of people who dare to see clearly and still choose to grow.